like to invite Dr. Simadri Bihari Ota, retired as Joint Director General from Archaeological Survey of India, and was awarded Tagore National Fellowship of the Government of India for research on the prehistory of Ladakh. Besides his services in ASI, he served as a director of Manav Sangrahalaya, Bhopal, and National Mission on Monuments and Antiquities, launched by the Ministry of Culture, Government of India, and aegis of ASI. His field of interest includes prehistory, history, archaeology, salvage archaeology, archaeological heritage management, and so on. Currently, Dr. Ota is engaged in two major projects. One is the geo-archaeological investigation of Acheulean sites, district Raisen, Madhya Pradesh. Another is the understanding early human occupations in high-altitude Ladakh Himalayas. He is the Secretary in Academy for Archaeological Heritage Research and Training. It is an honor for us to invite him and listen about Narmada during the Chalcolithic-Historical Period. Dr. S.B. Ota.
So I'll be talking to you about the latter part of the history. They have already spoke about the Pleistocene period. I'll come back to the late Holocene, where the Chalcolithic, when the human beings started using metal for the first time. Chalcolithic and historical. And the Stone Age, they have already spoken that. So for Narmada is concerned, what I found, whatever work I have done, it's extremely rich in Chalcolithic site. And finally, it gave rise to a particular culture which you call Malwa culture. It's a very diagnostic type Chalcolithic culture for the Narmada. Okay. Now, this Narmada played a major role. You must be knowing there are two major trade routes in the ancient India, which you call Uttarapath and Dakshinapath. And these, I'll show you. That's a Uttarapath, the black line on the top, and the yellow line is the Dakshinapath. And this passes through Narmada. Narmada played a major role for transmitting the culture through Narmada. It went to south. So there is a continuous movement of human beings, trade route. That was a major trade route in the early historic times. That's one of the very important thing of Narmada. And if you get into the historical aspect, forget about the Chalcolithic period for the time being. After the Stone Age, people started using copper and bronze and all that. That's what you call Chalcolithic. Use of this metal as well as stone. In the early historic times, there are many dynasties ruled that area. For example, Mallavas, Avanti, Guptas, medieval period like Paramaras, 9th to 12th century. And I'm just telling you, Malwa Sultanate, that area is called Malwa, that plateau is there in the middle Narmada basin. Ghurid dynasty, Khilji, Sultans of Malwa, Mughal, Maratha, and finally British period. And all these things mostly you will find in central Narmada. Now, if you see this, it's a very interesting. Narmada flows, in that future sort of thing. And in the middle part, geographically, it's very important because he was also telling why the middle part has got so many sites. Even my result, whatever I have noticed, the middle part, the central part of Narmada is extremely rich human occupations, right up to the present day. All your religious places are located in that. Now, if you see Narmada, particularly in the northern side, there are hills, Vindhyan Hills, Mahadeva, Gwalior, Satpura, and all that. And the central part, it flows through a beautiful alluvial belt. And this mark which I have shown, it's almost more towards western part of the central Narmada. And this is the area which is supposed to be very rich in Chalcolithic site, Iron Age site, and historical site. Even the population-wise, present day, it's very rich. It's because this is the area where there is a cultivated land. There are no hills. It goes kilometers to both the sides. And this is the area where all these SSP, Sadar Sarovar Dam project area, submergence area comes. Here there are maximum number of excellent sites are located. And this area is cultivated. Even today, if any of the agricultural families, those who stay on Narmada, depending on the Narmada water, it is this area which is highly populated. And I'll be just going through the slides. I'll tell you what are the different cultures that existed just after Stone Age cultures up to the historical period. One is a Ahad culture. Ahad culture is not very typical to this area. It has percolated to Narmada. So where the Malwa is concerned, Malwa itself is a part of the Narmada belt, and this has got its own identity. This culture developed, groomed on Narmada itself. Jorwe culture, again, it has come from the west. Then, very recently, something like 10, 15 years back, before that, it was not known whether there are any megalithic sites on Narmada, on the Narmada Valley, is there or not. Now it's already well established there are megalithic sites. There are Iron Age sites which are very less, because these two things are very limited research have been carried out. Only historical and medieval. And if you see, it's very interesting. All the Chalcolithic sites near Badwani, that's western part of central Narmada. The alluvial is, on both the sides, there are yellowish alluvium, because that's a Deccan Trap area, which is weathered basalt sediments are there. And on top of that, there are black sediment. And this is very good for cultivation. And the overall contour goes about 150 meters. And this is the area that supported historical sites and Chalcolithic sites. And there are two types of Chalcolithic sites, very interesting. One is a huge settlements like Namda Todi, Chichili and all that. Then there are very small sites. I'll be showing you some of the sites which is hardly 15 to 20 meter by 20 meter area. And these sites, Chalcolithic sites, these people were almost nomad, pastoral nomads. They are staying inside the pit. Most of us are, they are not from archaeology. If you go to Jammu, Kashmir, there is a dwelling pit dwelling sites. They stay within the pit because that is a cold climate. Then we have got from Haryana, Kunal. But this is in the central India, it's the only part where people are staying. They are digging a beautiful pits with steps and everything inside the older alluvium. Older alluvium is very compact, and these pits were used, particularly by these pastoral nomads. And these are located, mostly these Chalcolithic sites are located on both sides of Narmada. And this is the way. And it's very interesting. There is a presence and absence of Chalcolithic occupations. If you divide the central Narmada into eastern part and western part is extremely rich, but the eastern part, they do not have the Chalcolithic sites, particularly Omkareshwar side and all that. Eastern side, you won't be getting any Chalcolithic sites, only historical sites. That's very interesting because that area is not that cultivable, where the NSP area is there. You will never find Chalcolithic sites. There are plenty of historical sites and medieval sites. Come down to the western part, you will find. So now I'll take you to this area. This is the western part of central Narmada. And you can see this yellowish color. That's about 150 contour. And beautiful alluvium, full of cultivated. And one of the excellent cultivable land is located in that area. And this area is Omkareshwar and all that area, NSP area. There are plenty of sites, but there is no Chalcolithic sites. Now, if you see what's happening, when you see the profile of Narmada, there is right from Amarkantak, there is a steep dip. And here, there are many unique points and all that. There are prehistoric sites, but there is no Chalcolithic or big early historic sites are there. This red circle, that's the area of the NSP, Narmada Sagar. and you will get plenty of historical sites. Slightly down, that becomes somewhat flattish. Because why I'm saying, why this, if you see the patterning of these sites, they have adopted the landscape. Because they are all agricultural based people. So whatever land was suitable for cultivation, those are the areas that really supported the Chalcolithic and for the historical sites. Now I'll take you to that area. Distribution. In that area, there are plenty of Chalcolithic sites. And one of the earliest sites was the Narmada Todi, which was excavated by Professor Sankalia. Maheshwar is one of the famous places. On the bank, the opposite is the Narmada Todi. I'll take you to some of these sites where I worked. First is the small sites, how it was behaving in that area. One, there are two sites, Utawad and Pipri. And that is very close to Narmada. And if you find, these are all alluvial belt. And at places, alluvial, completely it has been, there is a badland topography and it has been eroded. And certain areas, the height is quite high, means about 140, 145. If it is beyond, slightly, it has come down to 130, 135 contour, you will find the sites. Bigger size Chalcolithic sites are the historical sites. And if it is more than 140, 145, you will find these small pastoral nomadic Chalcolithic sites. And there are two sites very close to that. And you can see the landscape. These are all very seasonal in nature, these sites. And they have cut their occupation is in the concrete silt. And it's a badland topography. It's like a small hillock where the occupations are there. And as I said, 143, 144 contour is the location for those sites. And there is a 2-meter thick high-level gravel, because I am taking you to a site called Utawad. And why there is no erosion, and its hills like, older alluvium has already retained. Because between a nala and this alluvium, at places there are beautiful high-level gravel. These are old gravel beds, quite high, higher than the present nala bed. These are the, one of these high-level gravel was excavated by me, and it has yielded beautiful Asulian artifacts in context of that. And this is one such site, Chalcolithic site, which is a crescent shaped. It has got hardly, older alluvium is about 0.8 meter thick black sediment on the top. And this site is hardly 1,500 square meter, very small one. And if you see, the middle portion is the site. And how the erosion has taken place, we have mapped it. If you put it back, what should be the size of the mound that has been projected. This is that excavation, the small circles. These are all floors. And here in Utawad, there are two phases within these pastoral nomadic communities. The phase one has got dwelling pits. They were cutting huge pits into the older alluvium, and that was their houses. And there must have been some superstructure on that. And if you come down to the phase two, latter phase of the Chalcolithic, you will find sunken floors, that sort of thing. And these are the floors. You can see the dwelling pits. And they're staying inside the pits. And they must be getting down with some sort of a ladder or bamboo and all that. And these are the sunken floors, community hearth. These are there. And these are all storage jars with grains. Because they are already, must be doing partially some cultivation, but mainly their economy was domestication of animals. There, we have got a very unusual type of burials. These are called pot burials. After the human beings are cremated or dead, their mortal remains were kept inside that, and it is buried. The most interesting aspect of these pots, just at the back side, bottom portion of the pot, there is an intentionally impression of Palas leaves. Palas leaf. And this Palas leaf has got an importance in the ancient literature. Particularly if you go to Rig Veda, Palas is mentioned, Palas denotes the beyond death and all that. Because even today, if you go to any of the places, even in our houses, to drive out the evil spirit, we put the Palas, patta in that. It is also offered to the dead. This tradition is still there at many parts of the country. Even it reference of the Palas and connection of the dead is mentioned in Satpat Brahman, Athar Ved and all that. So that is one of the unique evidence and that we have never found in other parts of the country. Then this place has got shell bangle manufacturing spot. These shell bangles, sales they are getting, must be getting from western coast. So that denotes that how much they are traveling. And for movement, the only medium is the Narmada. Along the Narmada, even today, this production path that goes. And from here, it's closer to the Bharuch. You just cross the Ghat road and those hills, Dhulia district hills and all that, you opens up to the Bharuch. So they must be getting it from there. And there are terracotta, very small artifacts, very few artifacts they are doing. They are unlike other large size Chalcolithic Malwa culture sites where there are beautiful paintings and all that. They have got some ring stones, salcons, because this was a very temporary occupation. They must be staying for a couple of months. And these sites, there is another site called Pipri. It's hardly 4 or 5 kilometers from there. This is one of the smallest sites that I located. Hardly this is a 15 meters by 15 meter site. And this stands out a hillock because the rest of the areas are already eroded, and where it is written that has been occupied. And if you find even today, these sort of locations where all these sites are located, present day shepherds when they go for grazing, because these are all very good grazing land. See, I mean the correlation between the location of the settlements and the cattle grazing land, because these are the barren land with the older alluvium which is already washed out. People cannot cultivate in these locations because with the conquers and everything available. But these are very good grasslands. So these are, even today it's occupied, and in the hillocks, shepherds used to sit and along with the sheep and goat. And the similar is the situation probably existed in the past. This is the small site in the middle, and these are the erosional things, and we refit what should be the actual size of the mound that we calculate. This is the total site. And it's such a small location, 15 meters by 15 meters, such a small locations. And these are the pits. Many of them are dwelling pits. You'll see on the top with the 2 steps, and on the bottom of the pit, there is a beautiful painting on line. So they are staying within that. That is another pit which is called for the burial. And another is a deep pit. You go to the bottom of the pit, you will find all the artifacts. You know, that was the floor level for them. And you can see, I mean, there are steps. That's what we have taken. It's so big. You know, mouth is slightly smaller, and when it goes to the bottom, it becomes wider. One can slip on that. Even that small charpai that in Narmada area we find, that can be put inside. It's so beautiful. And it never collapses because it's got into the older alluvium. And these are the dwelling pits. And such is the evidence, is very unique to that area, again, to Narmada. And there is a community hearth, because they are all people staying for one season. So they must be cooking their food and everything, whatever animals they get, wild animals, they must be cooking there. So there is a community hearth. It's not that every huts have got their own hearth. So that must be some 5-10 people and all that. And in that small side Pipri, this is a burial. You can see it's a deep trench, and these 2 pots, they're mouth to mouth, and that was kept inside this big pot. This was some sort of a symbolic burial. And in this, you find lot of beautiful paintings because these are, I told you that Ahad, then comes Malwa. They are part of the Malwa culture, but these are flimsy looking sites. And Malwa ceramics are known for their paintings. Even the varieties of paintings, number of paintings, you'll find more than Harappan paintings. So many varieties. And they are, of course, they are not knowing the use of iron, these people. They are doing the stone tools as well as copper implements, because copper can pass before iron, because smelting of copper is easier to smelt iron. They have got the beads and everything. Potteries, terracottas, bone spatula, they are doing it. And of course, the mycoliths which Dr. Parth Chauhanji showed belonging to the Mesolithic or Mycolithic phase, such artifacts continued. But those sizes are different and all. So these are also used by the Chalcolithic people. And in that small habitation, which is a pipri, about 15-20 meters size, there are animal burial. Animal burial were intentionally kept. They dug a huge pit. There is a boss species, cattle, was buried. Subsequently, lepus, that's a hare, rabbit, wild rabbit. So that is also buried. So there is a symbolic animal burial custom was there. And if you see the bones analysis that has been done by one of my colleagues from Deccan College, Aarti, and we get bones both of domesticated as well as hunting. Because they are already doing the domesticating of animals, cattle, buffalo, sheep and goat, they must be killing and eating that. Besides, there are a lot of wild animals that was also hunted by these people, like gaur, nilgiri, deer, chital, black buck, and porcupine. Birds, reptiles, fish bones, mollusks, because they are already on the edge of the Narmada bank. So fishing was not at all a problem for them. Now coming to another such site is the Nevalkadi, because all these sites where I worked some 20-25 years back. This is another such site which is again a very small, flimsy looking site. Because that was the time I was thinking that what was happening in these small sites, that's why I could trace it. Otherwise, if you go to the very large site excavations, there the scenario is completely different because their economy was different. So here also you will find similar sort of sunken floors and all that. All these three sites belonging to that pastoral nomadic communities. And there are butchering refuse with the beautiful cut marks and all that. Animals are butchered, they are thrown inside a pit and hearth. And if you find, there are potteries, those are associated with all these three sites, are black and red, white painted, black ware, red ware, black, and these are varieties of potteries. It's not that they are manufacturing the pottery, they must be getting it from the larger settlements. I will be showing you the larger settlements, Chalcolithic. And these are the potteries, they were not manufacturing. They are getting it from the other sites. There's a beautiful paintings on that, as I told you. They are also not manufacturing. These beads, like carnelian beads and other semi-precious beads, they must be getting it from others. So there is an exchange network existed. And they are also using bone tools, the animal bones. They are preparing and bone points and everything, they are doing it, besides metal objects. Now, that's all smaller sites. There is a site called Khapar Kheda, this opposite of Badwani. Badwani is one such site which comes on the Dakshinapatha area, because that has yielded large number of thousands of coins belonging to, say, 1st, 2nd century BC. So that was part of the Dakshinapatha route. There, once a site, historical site was excavated. And if you find that's again very close to Narmada. It's one of the very huge site. And here we have got Malwa culture, Chalcolithic. Then we traced Iron Age site. Iron Age in Madhya Pradesh, because subsequent to the Chalcolithic, subsequent to the use of particularly copper bronze, iron use started. Because we have got the use of iron in Uttar Pradesh, southern India and other parts. In Madhya Pradesh, it's not well defined. But we found a cultural phase which is distinctly of Chalcolithic phase. Then comes early historic. These are some of the structural elements, particularly historical period. They had a beautiful layout of drainage system, 2-3 chulas. You can see this sort of hearth is a direct parallel. Even you go to those Nimar or Malwa area, you'll find such things in that, even today. And there are showcase pits. Then there are huge, large number of granary where grains were stored within the mud houses. Then, of course, they are manufacturing copper implements. This is the coppersmith's workshop. And even goldsmith molding. These are the things that we have got from that Khaparkera site. And this is the evidence from Iron Age. These are not houses of bricks. They are all mud houses with posters, wattle and daub. And there are some burials associated with the iron age sites. These are all secondary burials we have got. These are from Iron Age, and this is for the first time on Narmada, we track this Iron Age phase. And this is a very rich site because that comes on the trade route. You will find coins, beautiful copper objects. This handle is of antler, beautifully drilled and all that. These are the gold objects. And that site is we just excavated not even 2% of the whole mound. And it's very extremely rich. That. Then this Khaparkera site has yielded the earliest evidence of wooden seal. So I'm just telling you the highlights of those. This is 2nd century BC. And it reads, Daga Kasa. It's probably a name of an individual. And this is carved on the wooden seals. There are seals, but those are all belonging to latter period. But this is the earliest seal ever discovered in India, particularly which is on wooden. And large factory site for manufacturing of bone points. We have got from the same Khaparkera. And these bone points manufacturing, that belongs to a Chalcolithic phase. Then another site was excavated, which is a Chichli. And this has given some evidences which is unique on Narmada again. And it's almost touching the Narmada bank. And if you see, there are beautiful Paleolithic sites associated with the conglomerate deposit, which Dr. Chauhan was showing. And this has yielded Lower Paleolithic and Middle Paleolithic. Very large number of artifacts have been collected. And this is the first site and the only site so far discovered where we have got the evidence of megalithic on Narmada. We have not yet reported. And there are nearly 1,000 megaliths were located. 1 or 2 have been excavated only. This is a beautiful evidence, but these megaliths are not associated with the iron. And these are associated with secondary human remains. Have been associated like skull fragments, long bones and ribs, and black and red and all those associated properties are there. And this site, Chichli site, has yielded the evidence of Ahar, Malwa, Jorwe, the way Nabda Todi has shown. Because they are not far away from each other. This is a small area which is the western part of central Narmada. And this is the site that was excavated very extensively. It has got storage and Ahar period potteries. Because Ahar is not of that land. It has come from outside. And they had particularly the mud houses during the Ahar period and Ovalis houses. Then Malwa is very rich. In that area, any site that has got, most of the Chalcolithic sites are of Malwa period. They have got beautiful paintings, very good houses, mud houses and all that. And these are all Malwa potteries, excellent potteries. and beautiful paintings. As I told you, the paintings are far better than Harappan paintings. Then comes Jorue, that's again from Western India. And Jorue period has got such potteries which Ibn Inamgaon has given such evidences. And these are the typical Jorue paintings. And along with, because since these are all Chalcolithic pottery, ceramics, along with that there are stone artifacts. And historical period is, of course, extremely rich with ivory and iron objects, because historical period we do get iron objects. Then Nabda Todi is known for, it has got art, Malwa, and historical medieval. But the main thing is the Malwa phase. Beautiful, this particular Kapan stand. It's very well known. I mean, you open any of the websites, you'll find this. And it has, as I told you, varieties of paintings. But these are the sites where we do not find dwelling pits. The contemporary to that, the smaller site, that has yielded. These are the remains from Nabda Todi, Chalcolithic sites. Again, both the banks of Narmada is extremely rich in sculptural remains. I'm coming down to the historical period. Right from 9th, 10th, 11th century, it continues manufacturing of the various deities and our sculptural remains extremely on both the banks. Literally thousands and thousands are there. If you explore that area, it's innumerable. And as I told you, go to the eastern part of central area. What's happening? These are the sites. Absolutely, there is no Chalcolithic sites. There are large number of sites. I surveyed something like 112 villages. There are Asulian sites, Middle Paleolithic, Mycolithic, prehistoric sites are there. Then historical, no Chalcolithic. Because those landscape is not like that they can have good cultivation and all that, because they are all agricultural based communities. This is a distribution pattern right from Narmada with the smaller rivers, full of sites, but no Chalcolithic. And these are all very late. This is what I understand, to summarize. River Narmada with its natural surroundings and cultural aspects are mentioned widely in ancient literature that many of us we are knowing. Narmada supported a cultural history which is unique to it. You can identify the personality of Narmada. There is an excellent man-land relationship along Narmada from earliest human occupations, like archaeology of river crossing. When I was surveying, it's very interesting. You cannot cross Narmada at every point. Either you should have a good water flowing where you can cross with the now, or there are rapids with very low water you can walk. And these 2 points, when I looked into, you can locate any ancient sites along with that. The moment you find one site on one bank in the river crossing points, other end, you are bound to get another site. That means these points were already in use right from Chalcolithic times, the crossing points. And choice of landscape. If you see the landscape and the location of these sites, it is very interesting. If they are nomadic communities, pastoral nomads, they have selected that sort of landscape. If they are doing the agriculture, their landscape different. Historical people, they have got a different landscape. Narmada has shaped human cultures and given rise to its unique identity. I can see that there is something during this period which is unique to Narmada, you'll never find in other areas. Narmada is rich in living cultures with all its dimensions, folklore, folk songs, legends that we know, like beautiful Malwa songs and all that. Narmada provides a unique story of cultural continuity. Because unlike Yamuna or Ganga, there was a lateral fluctuations. Here there is, except that Hosangabad area and all that, hardly you will find lateral fluctuations was there during the Holocene period. So that is probably one of the things that helped in continuity of culture. It never died out. Culture continued. It kept on changing its form. Narmada provides a unique story of cultural continuity. Narmada remained the driving force for cultural integration, assimilation, migration, change, etc. of the people since prehistoric times. Narmada is integrated into several living religious centers. If you find the major religious centers, they are all along. And you will find those areas are extremely rich, whether it's a Chalcolithic or historical. That means that clearly shows that continue to support that particular areas. Integrated cultural ethos of Narmada Parikrama. That's again historical places, religious places. These are a beautiful improvement. And one thing I noticed, in the northern Narmada Parikrama, they start from Amarkantak on the southern bank. And they go up to Bharuch, change the river, that side and northern side. Now, when they start from Amarkantak, walk along the river bank, do you know what is happening? All the temples which are 150, 200 years old, in every village has got, they are all facing east. Usually, we are acquainted, temples should face east. You cross Bharuch, walk towards the, when you are going to the west, on the southern side, facing to that, they are all to east. And when you cross and walking towards the east, cross the river and on northern bank, all the temples are facing towards west. Usually, temples never face towards the west. Northern bank, you will find temples are facing towards the west, southern bank to east. That means this parikrama thing had a long history. Even the archaeological evidence will support it. So I have got a few suggestions. After looking at all these cultural things, diverse things, it has got a real potential to make it a world heritage. Efforts are made. Second, like Ganga Yamuna, Narmada River can be declared as the living entity. The way it has been done for that. Then it's a high time that someone should do some sort of a SWOT analysis of all these, whether it's literary evidence, archaeological evidence, or present day cultures, anything, all these parameters can take, and that will really help to identify what exactly it preserves. And Narmada, which is both natural and cultural heritage, is a boon for the cultural tourism in the country, that everyone knows, because we have not yet done that. Thank you.
One small observation. You made that on each side of the temples are facing east and on west
Not the
side.
old temples, which are 100, 150, 200.
Even new and old. I would request you to have a sort of empirical survey of facing temples, because temples I have visited do not have such specific side or location.
Which temple I am telling? Not the Maheshwar, not the Omkareshwar. These are all 9th, 10th, 11th Paramar period. I am talking
Paramar
about,
period, yes.
but I am talking about the temples which is 150, 200 years. These are all because when we walk along the river from one village.
Sir, if you relate it with revival of Parakamma in 10th century,
Right.
and then say that this is the route, even that is not, there are some doubts about it. So it's better to have a sort of empirical survey and then make a statement.
Now, actually, in the literature, the route is also mentioned. But those routes are never followed because some of the villages are skipped and all. But probably there was a time when it was thickly forested, say 100, 150 years back. Now there are certain villages are avoided. And the government of Madhya Pradesh has prepared a beautiful document. They have mapped each and every village and the route.
Yes.
First day, second day, third day, fourth day, complete route right from Amarkantak to end and back. They are not following each of these villages which I am talking about. But probably, because now there are roads, say 150 to 200 years back, they must be following only the bank because that's a convenient. So those temples, not the old temples, I'm not talking about the old temples. Old temples are as usual. So these recent temples, some of these temples have been transplanted probably because of the submergence and all. Those temples I have taken. And that can be resurveyed, and mostly. But there is, right from Riva Khand of Skand Puran, that description, and looking at these religious centers, archaeological sites. I mean, even there are beautiful legends people have not studied. You go to any of these religious places, they have got the beautiful songs connected with those areas that speaks about the history of that.
I have a quick question. Somebody wrote some scripts written on the stone.
Not on stone, that was on wood.
So what language is this scripts?
That's a Brahmi. Brahmi.
Very, very interesting talk. So basically, the stretch what you have shown right now is in Deccan Traps. So completely.
And Deccan Trap is a huge area, central. Yeah, I'm showing all the Chalcolithic sites are western half of that Deccan Trap, alluvial belt.
So the question: what made these people to live in the pits? Why they were forced to make a pit and leave? So,
because these are all open badland topography sort of thing. Not all, these small groups, along with the cattle, those are going. The bigger settlements like Nabda Todi, Chichli, they were staying continuously throughout the year. Now, these people, if someone wants to stay, because you know in the badland topography, the trees doesn't grow. Big trees you will find very limited. These are open grassy lands. So probably that's the only way to save themselves from the wild animals. Probably that's one of the reasons. It's not it's very cold, they cannot survive. Cold might be because that area is not that cold, but cold. In the winter, probably at least 2 months in 2 to 3 months. That could be the possibility.
One more thing that you said two terms like the black soils and
the top,
older alluvium.
Older alluvium, because this black sediment is capping over the older alluvium. Capping over the older alluvium.
Okay, so how did you say that it's an older alluvium? What is the character?
There, in Narmada, you will find conchers in that.
What is the color of that? It is like...
this older alluvium is yellowish.
Okay.
And full of conchers. That's why these dwelling pits will never collapse. Even we worked for 6 months, doesn't collapse. It's a beautiful hard sediment. You cut into that. What would collapse? Only the black sediment on the top, which is thin. That will collapse. But the inside pit is very smooth. And we could take out, there's no need to dig. Exactly like Kashmir, when fillings are there. Inside there are pottery or a lot of other sediments. You just take it out, it will come out from the wall of those pits. No need to cut it.
So have you ever thought of the source of this yellowish sediments? Because it's entirely Deccan Trap. So weathering the Deccan Trap will produce black cotton soil. You are getting it at the top. And below that you are getting a different color
because
of soil.
That area doesn't have this Bindian. That's completely Deccan Trap area.
Yeah. So what's the source of this
sediment?
Yellow? Yeah. Any
sediment, if I feel, because yellowish sediment also is a weather product of Bindians. And it depends on probably the chemical composition and all that, it will be varying. Otherwise, because here, absolutely several kilometers away from the river.
Yeah, I could see that on the photograph also. It's all yellow in color. I was expecting all black color.
You'll be working on that.
It's very interesting. Thank you.
And all those fossiliferous sites are not in this. Again, eastern part. Hosangabad and all that. You will never find Chalcolithic sites in Hosangabad area.
Yeah. maybe this part was much fertile because of the Deccan trap and the black cotton soil. This makes a lot of
and
sense.
even today,
Yeah.
if you see the density of population and all the rich people, those who have got the huge cultivated land and all that, they belong to this area.
Yeah.
Mysore area and all those.
Thank you.
You said that these semi-nomadic people who were pastoral people, they chose to live on higher altitudes,
Not higher altitudes,
on a certain elevation, right?
certain elevations.
Huh. And those who practice agriculture, like Narmada, Todi, and
There
Maheshwari,
is
they-
just 6-7 meters below that. Actually, the whole landscape is 135 contour, where the present day people cultivated land and all that.
No, I was just wondering what could be the reason behind
The
this.
reason-
That this
It's
they
exactly.
chose.
I'll tell you. These are all nomadic. They are pastoral communities. Now, go to any part of the country. If I'm a shepherd, I'll take 200 animals with me. I will have a seat, I will be staying at a place which is higher and have beautiful visibility after a long distance. My animals can go around. Even today, you go to the same Narmada area, and they are having some 200, 300 animals with them. The animals are grazing, and that fellow will come, sit on a higher area in the badland of Webby, so that he can keep an eye.
Okay. Practical reason.
Because these are all 2-3 months, habitations.
Okay, absolutely. And one more, this is more of an observation. As Partha Chauhan talked, in the central Narmada region, we have lower Paleolithic sites, but not much middle and upper Paleolithic site. But on the eastern side, we have many upper Paleolithic and middle Paleolithic sites.
Now, where he was working, where there
that
is
is what he
large number of
said. So
sites,
I kind of find of a connection.
why it's happening.
Yes. So during the Chalcolithic period, this central, portion of Narmada is inhabited by them. And during the earlier historic period, they again sort of go back to this eastern. So there is this pattern. I don't know whether it is a pattern
one
or
of
what.
the reasons, because one is the raw material. With Dr. Chauhan was showing, they are preparing hand axes, cleavers, and big tools. Those are all of sandstone, quartzite. And this area which I am talking about, where the Chalcolithic, there is no hills. They are all like plain areas, cultivated land. If there is no, and even in the Narmada bed, you will not find pebbles in that area. The Chalcolithic area, which I am talking about, one area and all that. In the central portion, there is a eastern half where all those sites are Hosangabad, Narsinghpur and all. There we have got hills. You can get the raw material. That's very close to the river. Go to the western part of the central Narmada. I'm dividing the Narmada into two. It's the western part. This is the western part. So if you see, these are all same Deccan Trap area, alluvial belt. But here, hills are there. Go to the downstream, Mysore area, no hills. And most of the population, if you see, those are confined, density of population even today, to Mysore area.
Any more questions, sir? No. Thank you so much, sir. It is always an honor to have you here on campus.